Peace. So, one of the worst things that happened to our people, I say it all the time, is integration. And I want to examine that for a minute and why I say it. Because when we think about integration, we know and understand why integration was kind of put in place. You understand? And the thing is that when we examine it from a perspective of segregation, we may see and ask ourselves, were we in a better position then, or are we in a better position after the integration, post-integration, pre-integration? You know what I'm saying? Which one? Where do we fit, and are we sitting in a better situation? So let's examine it. For those of us who don't really know and understand history, or don't understand our own history, let's take a look at segregation and let's see why and what we were doing then, and if it's any different from what we're doing right now. So, number one, segregation was a manifestation of the institution of slavery, right? And before the Emancipation Proclamation, there was a form of segregation going on the plantations. And what I mean by that, there was a separation between, quote unquote, so-called the slaves, what I call the prisoners of war. There was a separation between them to, dealing with color. You know what I'm saying? Or the perception of colorism. You understand what I'm saying? And that itself caused something that caused problems, you know what I'm saying, for the slaves. I mean, or what I call the prisoners of war. Something that caused a problem for them, because what it did was it created a hate between each other. Light skin, dark skin, so on and so forth. And this is something that we still suffer from to this very day, is this thing called colorism. And that started all the way on the plantation. And today we don't even understand why we play the colorism game. Oh, the light skin and the dark skin, or why you hate somebody whose skin is lighter than yours, or why somebody hates you because your skin is darker, and so on and so forth. This is an inbred subliminal implant for self-hate that was manifested on purpose. Now, let's get back to segregation. Segregation was one of the best things that happened to our people. Why? Because we were autonomous during segregation. We had our own houses. We had our own land, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? We had our own schools. We had to build our own, and we had to work with each other in order to build our own. So we began to build our own constructive infrastructure without the European. See, that's the thing. Now remember, the slave is fresh out of slavery and is supposed to be unintelligent, supposed to be lazy, docile, and slow. These are all of the attributes that slave masters have put on the slaves. They're dumb, they're slow, they're ignorant, you know what I'm saying? But yet, these were the same people who was taking care of all of the technology in the fields at that particular time. All, you know what I'm saying? Doing all of the work. The slave master didn't do a thing. So he had no knowledge of technology or how to utilize certain things on his own land, because he had slaves who did it for him. So here we go. So with segregation, we began to build our own thing. Like I said, we had our own. We worked amongst each other. We had cities operating in extreme wealth. You can look at Elaine, Arkansas. You can look at Rosewood. You know what I'm saying? You can look at Black Wall Street. And we have Black Wall Streets in a number of different cities. You know what I'm saying? What we would call a satellite to Black Wall Street, or an offshoot of Black Wall Street in other places. You know what I'm saying? Black Wall Street of Oklahoma became the model for other successful people of color. You know what I'm saying? At that particular time. Now, segregation was a beautiful thing for us. Why? To me, was because we had to deal with each other. There was no semblance of the European besides his terrorist tactics that would try to thwart us from making our businesses, expand and making our businesses prosper. So what they did was they put together one of the first organized terrorist group in the Americas, known as the Ku Klux Klan. The first organized terrorist structure, the Ku Klux Klan, and night riders and so on and so forth, and lynchings and terrorism that they would try to do at the hands and the expense of our own people to stop us from, building our infrastructures. You know what I'm saying? They murdered and lynched so many brothers and sisters who were business owners and stole land from them. They were lynching business owners and taking the land and so on and so forth, because they didn't have a science on how to operate the land. So they wanted to take lands that's already been operated on, that's already able to yield harvest and so on and so forth, right? So what happens then is, somewhere down the line, the Jews get involved and they create this thing called the talented tenth. The talented tenth, or the bourgeoisie, were quote unquote Asiatic educators, quote unquote, who went to European schools. You know what I'm saying? They called them the talented tenth, and they used the talented tenth through W.E.B. Du Bois, A. Philip Randolph, and a couple other people. They used them to push the ideal of integration. You know what I'm saying? How it was necessary for us to come into, you know, to integrate into mainstream society and to be a part of society as a whole. You understand what I'm saying? Not recognizing and not realizing that, not knowing your enemy and the way your enemy thinks and the psychology of your enemy, not knowing that if you gave up what you have, you were going to go into a further enslaved, indebted idea. You know what I'm saying? And it was going to take effect to your physical, and it was going to operate on you generationally. You see what I mean? So Martin Luther King and those cats, they were used by the Rockefellers to push this ideal of integration, to usurp wealth from our people, to usurp the wealth, to usurp the autonomy that we had amongst ourselves. We had a self-autonomy, and now today, because of integration, we have felt codependent. You understand what I'm saying? We barely know what it means to have a business or to run a business or to operate amongst each other. You know what I'm saying? We don't know what it means to have our own community, to have a dollar come into your community and pass through 20, 10, or 11 hands before it leaves your community. That's wealth. And this is what we were doing prior to integration. You understand what I'm saying? And the crazy thing about it was us doing this prior to integration was altering and breaking down the European system. Their structure, their economic structure was being broken down because they wasn't producing or manufacturing anything. You got to remember, damn near all of the inventions of technology at that time was created by us. Us, quote unquote, the so-called slave or the prisoner, created by us, the ones who were supposed to be dumb, not docile, don't know any better. But we came up with methods and ways to ease the things that we had to do in the field and so on and so forth. So it was our genius that did these things, and it was our genius that was making us prosper in segregation. And the best thing that we could do is to get back to that type of ideal and that type of thinking, because honestly, the European still has things segregated. Everything is still separated. Take a look in your communities. You got a ghetto, you got wealth. It's always been separated. You understand what I'm saying? Just take a look at it. The separation has never stopped. It's just been cover-coded by what we would call democracy, or the idea of what we call democracy, that everybody has an equal and fair chance, but we don't understand that that's not the truth. So I advocate for separation. I advocate for us to segregate and to get back to our own selves and to deal with each other and to work and to build. And we need carpenters, we need scientists, you know what I'm saying? We need biologists, you know what I'm saying? We need doctors, we need electricians, we need plumbers, we need people who can build, we need people with skills, trades and skills. Everybody can't be a teacher, everybody can't be a historian, everybody can't be a Malcolm X. Everybody got to get in where they fit in and bring their skills and their talents and get it in, and let's work together as a complete unit and operate and separate ourselves from this structure. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, in my eyes, the worst thing that has ever happened to us besides the institution of slavery is what came out of that, which was the integration paradigm. Because when we look at us right now and we look at integration, look at us. Look at us. We don't have control of our own communities. We don't have control of anything anymore like we did at one time. In segregation, we controlled our own, and we were wealthy, and we worked. We had standards. We had rules and morality, and we also had spiritual principles in place. Those things don't exist today. Those things are not operated on because we're taught that spiritual things don't have a difference anymore. It don't make a difference to us because everything is material. Everything is about what you can accumulate, touch, taste, and feel, and about your physical wealth. But you forget and understand that man is not the body nor the soul, and that this body is temporary, and that all of this stuff that you worried about down here, you can't take it with you. Don't get distracted. Peace.